Welcome to The Uncommon Truth. My name is Max, and as always, I'm joined by Steve and Vicky Orsillo.
Here we are.
Senior pastors of the Father's House Church in Oroville, California.
I love my church.
And it is finally, it's the middle of October, but it's finally not 1,000 degrees outside every day.
It's cold, actually. We're wearing sweatshirts. It's 85.
Yeah.
Sadly, the pool weather is done.
We're sad.
My beautiful pool lays dormant.
If people came here from someplace else, they would use your pool.
They would go swimming.
But everybody gets used to 110 degrees during the summer, and they call that pool weather.
That's right.
I think like mid-80s is still pool weather.
I think you'd be cold if you're in the pool today.
Yeah.
Today,
Even
yes.
with all your sweaters you wear.
Yeah, I do have a sweater that sort of goes everywhere with me. But we're not talking about once shaved, always shaved.
Once shaved, always
we
shaved.
did last week.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are bad.
So it's fall, and we're even past Canadian Thanksgiving, which was last week. But we still have a ways to go till real Thanksgiving.
Happy belated Thanksgiving.
Real Thanksgiving?
Real
Canadian isn't real?
No, they don't really.
That's not really real.
They just
family
take
is
one
Canadian.
day off.
Canadians
of work
aren't that
and-
thankful.
Oh
I
my
guess.
gosh, you dissed
My family up
he
there,
just said you're not real.
they've seen a little bit of American Thanksgiving, real Thanksgiving.
Do they like it?
They like it a little bit more.
Oh,
'Cause
that's
you get
awesome.
more days off. You can trample people at a mall.
Oh, that's true.
You can watch some football. There's probably more trampling at the mall than in football these days because they don't know how to tackle anymore.
But Canadians are just as thankful as Americans, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he said that with a squeak in his voice.
His
know.
family, his wife's family is
I love
probably.
I love my Canadian
There
family.
you go.
We the truth is we've got a lot of listeners in Canada.
Yeah,
Thank
so you
you.
better not squeak your voice when you say that.
I love Canada.
I think they're just as thankful. I think you guys are awesome.
We love you.
No
We're
matter
sorry
what
Max is
Max
not.
says
Yep.
about you, I think you're awesome.
Good.
Just
Okay.
your poutine is a
Especially
little
more
weird,
Wiener people.
but everything else is really awesome, and I especially love more Wienans.
And we like maple syrup.
Yeah, we've got actually listeners coast to coast in Canada.
Wow.
Did you know that a place called Prince Edward Island was actually a province, not a
Yes.
state, but a
Yes,
province?
we knew that.
Oh, of
Okay.
course
That's
we
Carly
do.
Platt.
Oh yeah, our friend Carly. That's her.
And shout out to
And-
Sabrina and Sam Haney too today. They are new
Where are they
listeners.
from?
They're from, I believe they're Marissa Woodard's parents, and they live, I think, in Vacaville, Sacramento, Fairfield.
Okay.
Woodland.
So not as far away as Prince
I thought it was
Edward
Woodland.
Island, PEI.
No.
Well,
We're
that's
also
a long
on
ways away.
we're on AM FM 24/7, which means people all across the country are listening to us
Welcome.
on radio stations and online. So we've got that going on. We've also got people as far as we've had Pakistan, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand.
Pastor Christopher from Pakistan.
That's
Love you
right.
guys.
And
Love
his
you
wife,
guys.
Ruth.
Okay.
Very special
We
group
love you
of
guys.
people there in Pakistan in Abbottabad.
Oh, you do so well.
Abbottabad.
Abbottabad.
Yeah.
Cool. So we are a worldwide podcast. It's
Oh, that's
right.
amazing. I feel so good.
So anything new for you guys?
Well, we just came back from Yellowstone, and it was
Yeah.
really nice.
Cold.
Good.
We
really,
went back. That's where we honeymooned. And
No way.
so 41 years later, we decided to make a trek back to the Tetons and Yellowstone.
Nobody was swimming in Yellowstone. I mean, no matter what country they were
41
from.
degrees in the daytime.
I had so when we were moving from Winnipeg, Canada down here, we took a trip and we decided we were going to camp our way here. And that was a fun idea. We thought, yeah, in theory. And so the first few nights were really nice and warm. And then we got to, I think it was Cody, Wyoming, one of the entrances to Yellowstone. And we're like, what's going on here? Our windows are fogging up. We realized it was like 39 degrees and we hadn't even gotten to the park yet. And we were supposed to be camping with two toddlers, under 3.
Wow.
And
You
so we
missed it
ended
by
up
this
staying in a
Motel.
motel and driving through Yellowstone the next day.
We're excited. That was exciting. It was exciting to see it again, wasn't it, honey?
Yep. Really, really, really good memories.
So you didn't get chased by a buffalo, a bison, or anything? We'll see.
He always tells me I'm going to run into a bear. I remember on our honeymoon, he said, "You will see so many bears
So
in
many bears,
Yellowstone."
yeah.
I was so scared to get out to even go to the garbage can because I thought, Yogi's going to get us. And
Right.
how many bears did we see?
We saw exactly 0.
Okay.
It was so shocking. When I'd gone as a kid, that we saw, our family counted bears. It was in the 40s, I think. And we named them. We had names for bears
gosh.
because you could tell them apart. And they were everywhere. They were constantly around us. And we named bears. And
now there's
so I told
barely
her, oh,
any?
you can't. What happened was when we
The bare minimum?
in between
Yeah.
my childhood and our honeymoon, they moved the garbage dump way far away, and they don't
Okay.
let anybody leave garbage out, and they really
Yeah.
police feeding the bears.
So we should have hiked
So the
to
bears
garbage.
left. The bears left.
Yeah.
Bye-bye bears.
Bye-bye bears.
Okay. We used to
How
have
about them bears?
the bears.
The bears.
The bears.
We used to have bears at the camp that we used to work at, and yeah, kids loved them, but it got really scary when the bears would come in because you're never sure what the bear's going to carry off with them. One of the
Yeah.
smaller campers or
Yeah,
something like
smaller.
that.
Camper.
Yeah.
You still got everybody checking in on all the cabins.
they're
Like, well, I
hungry.
think somebody went to the bathroom.
Yep,
Like, oh
they're
no,
hungry.
they're gone. So, anyway, this week, as I mentioned in our opening, we're going to talk about a topic that is pretty common, but we're going to tackle it from a really uncommon place. So the topic of money is something that Jesus spent a lot of time talking about in the New Testament. A lot of his words mention money, and how we handle money. It can say a lot about how much we trust God and how much we love others, and kind of where our focus is, whether
Where
it's
your heart
on
is.
here and now or on eternity. And something I've learned from you guys is that how we approach money can actually be a way to build our faith.
Yeah.
So I guess in Christianity, you tend to hear more about money on the do you have enough saved up? Are you going to be able to retire right? Do you have insurance for this, that, and the other thing? And I don't get the sense that that's really the way Jesus talked about money when I read his words.
Oh, no.
So
No.
what was Jesus' focus on money about?
Well, what you're talking about is today's message of trusting in money.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus' message was 100% not to trust in money, but to trust in God. Therefore, if you have any, give to one who doesn't, and then both of you have some. And I think that give and you shall receive, or trust God and you shall receive. With your faith, you'll see that God will take care of you. Who amongst you would not give good things to his son who asked him for them? You know, like if he asked for a
Bread.
fish, would give him a scorpion,
Mm-hmm.
or ask for bread, who would give him a rock? And he's just saying God will take care of you. He knows the hairs on your head. He knows the sparrows in the sky. He knows the number of days in your life. And so he knows what you face. And so if you try to store up money to make sure and take care of yourself, he will let you. Now you take care of your own self. But if you use your money for his kingdom and you do what Jesus said in that incredible promise, it's an incredible testing place, that you give and you shall receive, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Now it's talking about forgiveness and lack of judgment there. The mercy you use, the measure you use, and those things. But it works in everything. And so in a Christianity today that works, a person gives. And I have found what I teach people to do, because money is such a loud voice, and the church as a whole has taught them so many principles about saving their money to make sure they can take care of their tomorrows, getting their education so they can make sure their tomorrows are taken care of by a better job, they get education, insurance in case something bad happens. And I believe that Christianity, with Paul, Peter, James, every one of them, including the words of Jesus, is Christianity is faith. And what's the most important issue of faith? Is it really whether I get healed or not? Or is it whether I trust God to take care of me, cover me, see me through, provide for me? And I think that money is by far the most powerful source in the world to destroy our faith. We pile it up in warehouses. We save it up in banks. We accumulate, and there is no such thing as being too rich. Nobody ever had enough.
Right.
Maybe you find the rare, but I don't know of anyone that's ever had enough. And what it does, you clearly just trust in your money. we exalt money. We worship people who make a lot. We befriend them, do good things for them, expect them to be smart. Like some rich man can tell us we all ought to go jump off a bridge. That'll make us happy. We all go do it because a rich man told us. In fact, there are commercials that say that they always start with, "I have made $100 million in real estate. You should listen to me." And we all listen to him because he made $100 million in real estate. And there's been thousands of those programs, of make the money. It'll take care of you. You'll be okay. When Jesus is really saying the opposite, and we believe, way we teach is that in this reason we put offerings before you is to challenge you to put yourself in a position of trusting in God. If you need $100 to get through the week, make sure you leave the church with only 99. And in my case, I'd rather leave the church with 0 because 100 is a small number. I've been as high as 50. I needed $15,000 tomorrow. And I have no worries. And shockingly, I got the $15,000 tomorrow. And it's amazing to watch when you start with the little stuff. It's not easy to have that kind of faith where my wife even asked me, "Aren't you nervous?" I said, "No, I'm really not. I'm kind of excited to see how he's going to solve it."
Yeah.
And because I know I give every time I'm asked to give. I give every time I'm challenged. Every time it's an opportunity in front of me, I give. And so I know my faith is strong. And when I've come up to a deadline, he takes care of me. Now, that's coming from a man. I have had my business completely. When the economy crashed in the world, I fell. I mean, my whole world crashed. I lost everything. We lost everything. And we made it through because we are people of faith. Now, that sounds like he didn't take care of us. But you'd be shocked how much peace we went through that. We had our breakdown, but then we had peace. We walked out of court and just said, "I can't believe it feels like a walk on water miracle what's going on with us." And we had such peace and goodness, and never did we miss a meal. We just were taken care of through the whole thing. He took care of us. But that's because a lifetime of giving. Now, if I have time, I'll share a story. I was praying.
Please do, yeah.
And I'd been preaching my whole life, you cannot outgive God. I honestly was deceived into thinking that meant money. That you give money in these levels, and Vicki and I gave as close as we could to 100%. I tried to pour out more money than I made. I tried to get ahead of. I wanted to give. And so I tried to give as much as I could, never robbing from the company, but just my own income, just give as much as I could. So I didn't dream anything like this would ever happen to me because God took care of me at every turn. Well, when I crashed, I was sitting there just shocked and dismayed. Lord, I thought you would never betray me. I thought you would never let me down. I thought I could never outgive you. And that was the pinpoint of my most wonderful conversation with God in my life. It was long, and it was question and answers. It was back and forth, and it was such a tremendous conversation. He said, "Steve, how much money have you made in the last 10 years?" And that was strange because I'm saying, I thought you wouldn't betray me. I thought you wouldn't let me fall. I thought I couldn't outgive you. And here I sit, you're not being faithful. And he says, "How much money have you made in your life?" And a number came to my mind. I said, "Whoa, that's about right." It just came to my mind.
Yeah.
And he said, "And how much have you given?" I said, "I don't know." And I thought for a minute. And that same number came back to my mind. And I said, I think that's right too. Started adding up. The 10 years I started seeing the charitable contribution slip, And I said, "Oh, times 10, that's probably true." And then I said, "How can I have done that? How can I have given as much as I received?" And then he asked me another question. He said, "Steve, have you known 1,000 people who tithed?" I said, "I think I have known 1,000 people that tithed." He said, "Has even one of them said I was unfaithful?"
Wow.
I said, "Not one of the ones that tithed, no. No." And I was close to saying it right there. See, I was trying to say it. He says, "Has even one of them said I was unfaithful?" I said no, but I was starting to get really teary-eyed. I was starting to break down. I was just so confused, and I had lost everything. I mean, I had built an empire for 30 years at that time, 35 years at that time, and I had, so many houses. Most people, hardly anyone ever owns that many houses.
Yeah.
Because you're a contractor.
Yeah,
I build them. I build
Contractor
4 and keep 1, build 5, keep 2. That
pastor.
kind of
Yeah.
thing, and it was just a lucrative. We just had phenomenal, blessed success. Whatever we put our hand to worked, and then the worldwide economy crashed, and it just was the banks. We didn't even fail. The banks just had
Called the notes.
They called the notes, and they just had. It's like they were passionate to take things.
Yeah.
Because too long a story to
Whatever.
tell, and. So I said, yes, Lord, I think I do know 1,000 people that have tithed, and I don't know one that has ever said you were unfaithful. He said, if I've been faithful to 1,000 people that tithe that you know, don't you think I'd be faithful to someone who gave all they had? And I just started to cry. The Lord himself was telling me, I will be faithful to you. Now, I wish I could tell you the next morning I woke up, someone handed me a bag full of money, and we went on our way and took off, but it wasn't the journey. The journey was 100 more hard moments of people I owed money to that I had to sell tools and liquidate things to get them paid, and there was 100 more hard days ahead of me. The foreclosure of our house, because by then we were failing on the notes because our income went away and all of our assets were gone, and we were being cheated by people everywhere we turned, but I still had in my heart this, he will be faithful to us. And we can sit here now 12 years later, but we could sit there 60 days later, 100 days later, whatever it was, a month, quite a few months later, we could just sit there and tell you how incredible blessed we were. It just, every time we turned, he would meet our needs. Miraculous things. Too many stories to tell at this table.
So many.
But miraculous things. From that day forward, I did not shake my fist at him. I only asked one question. I said, Lord, but I thought I followed you. I thought I was doing each thing. I mean, there's so many people can criticize me for giving away so much. My mother was mad at me for giving away so much.
Yeah.
Don't you wish you'd have kept it now? I'm like, Lord, people think I did wrong giving. And I thought I followed you into this, or buying so much. I mean, I kept and bought. And, I thought I followed you here. And here I am bankrupt. Here I am upside down, backwards. Lost everything except my own house and some other things. But he said, the most amazing thing, he said, you did. And that was it. You did.
You did follow me. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in sackcloth and ashes, just
What?
with this seed of joy in my heart. Like, all I needed to know was that I did not walk away from you. I didn't cause this. All of the mess, I hurt my wife. I took away, the kingdom. I lost what me and her built, and I lost it all on my own. She had no role in it. And all I needed to know was him saying, you did follow me into it. So you did lead me here? Yes. And I was just, I was blown up with joy. I was overwhelmed with the satisfaction of, oh, well, if this is the road, if this is your road, then I'm happy to be on it. We walked out of that court going, what a road it is. We could not believe, and the stories kept going, the blessing upon blessing upon blessing that hit our lives. I no longer had a pickup truck. I was thinking of letting my contractor's license go. I had no income forever, and my bills got paid, and it's just too many stories to tell, but just a phenomenal trek through life's journey of following the Lord, where you go up financially, down financially. What Paul said, I have been rich and I have been poor, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Right.
Vicki and I have been so poor. I have worked for peanuts to feed my children, but I've always worked. I've even worked for free. I've never been paid at the Father's house to pastor this church because I know the value of giving. I know the value of faith in the Lord and trusting the Lord. And you couldn't come and do what I do today from a baby place.
No.
It's a journey, and that's why we challenge everyone to give $1 more than they can possibly afford. And don't fudge on that. Make sure of it. I got a $75 bill tomorrow. Well, then don't walk out of church with $75. Walk out with $74 and see what happens.
That's good.
I'm giving to you, Lord. I'm seeding faith into you, Lord, into your church, into your kingdom.
That's good.
And just that's really, and I'm telling you, man, people still walk up to me with business cards. They want to teach me how to buy insurance. And in the church, they're constantly selling a product, a financial product. And I'm like, well, man, I got one so much better than you've got. It's called give. Give sacrificially and watch what God can do. And it's amazing what's happened in our life.
And I think, what we're seeing is in the Christian churches is that the marriage again between the Old Covenant and the New Covenant, New Covenant, Old Testament, New Testament, is that that's where, in my opinion, and I don't want to use the word contradicts, but there is in the Old Covenant it tells you that you're a fool if you don't store. A wise man saves up for his children.
Leaves an
a
inheritance.
Fool does this,
Yeah.
and so then you read Jesus, and he says, why do you store all your money in barns where rust and moth can eat it?
Yeah.
Why don't you give it all away? Basically, he says, someone asks for your shirt, you give them your jacket. So we are Christians, and we should really understand the new covenant of giving of money. And it's like you need to not go back and forth in the New Covenant and Old Covenant. Steve and I live in the New Testament. We love the whole Bible, but this is how we should live. That we give. We give our life away. We give our time away. We give our money away, and all these things shall be added unto you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. And in the 41 years we've been married, we have started. We're so far down the road in this where when I first started, when the Lord would pay $100 bill, I was like shocked, and then now it's like we have like you said so many examples where there's just no way unless Jesus comes through. Our house was on the auction block. We had one day, for it to be foreclosed. Our acreage was on the auction block, and within 2 days, the Lord the day of.
On the acreage, it was the
day of. And it's like, so now we're able to, because we've given our way out of many situations financially. When we were ready to lose everything, we just gave forgiveness to all the people who owed us money, and it's just shocking. But it's my desire is to have everything on the table, and give it. I remember the first time this was really clear to me is I was on with YWAM during the Olympics in '92, and I didn't have a lot of money. There was no ATMs, and I had this. Steve gave me this much money for the week, and I was on mission trip, and I remember having, I always know how much money's in my wallet. I never surprised at what's in there. But I remember we were in a service, and the bucket was coming by, and the Lord said, "Why don't you give $20?" And I'm like, Lord, $20? I won't have any money. And He's like, no, you should give $20. And I'm like, no, I just don't think, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's just, then I have $20 for the rest of the week or whatever.
Right.
And the Lord said, so the Lord was really cute. He said, well, will you give what's ever in your wallet? And I'm like, well, yeah, and the total was exactly what He was telling me. It was $20, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so it was like, and I remember holding that money like in my fist, and I was at my steely fist, and the offering bucket came by, and I just threw the $20 in, and it was so freeing for me because I was really bound, by money at that time. And Steve's always been a little more generous. But as we went through life, and I've understood this, we both feel like we're not as tied to money as we once were. Now, It's always a struggle. Steve, sometimes he'll just put money in his pocket, or sometimes you'll take it out even because you're afraid someone's going to ask you.
Yeah.
We struggle with that. It's like, because we really believe, give to any man who asks.
Yeah.
And a lot of Christians will say, well, they're just going to get a bottle of alcohol.
Right.
Well, that's not really on me. If someone walks up to me and asks me for money, I give them money. if someone has a sign on the side of the road, I just don't do that because they're not really asking me. But if someone comes up, anybody comes up and asks, or even if somebody's saying they need money and you just hear it, your spirit's just kind of touched sometimes.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit's saying, you could probably do that for them. So I want to live a life of generosity. I want to give it all away. I want to give my life away, my time, and my money. But money seems like it's almost at the top sometimes.
Yeah. It's got so many other things tied
Correct.
to it that it's a good place to start. You tackle money and you start feeling like, okay, well then, I mean, it's so tangible that then time and energy become a little bit easier when
Correct.
you learn. And that's why in my mind I thought, okay, money's a really good way to learn how to build our faith, because you didn't start off with, okay, well, God, I have $15,000 I need tomorrow, so God's going to figure that out.
Wow, that'd be too
You
much.
didn't start there. You started with $1 more than you were comfortable giving, and then it was $2, $10, $20, right?
I remember our sweet associate pastor, Jordy and Stephanie Mumby, when they first came, and we want our leaders to give tithe. Start the very minimal Old Testament principle is tithing 10%. We just say that's a great baseline to start, but you need to that's the Old Testament. You need to kind of keep going. But I remember when they first came to the Father's house, they were really struggling with giving, tithing, and Steve had a conversation with them, and then they became like the most generous people.
Oh yeah.
And our Stephanie Mumby one day, Jordy had gotten cancer. Rectal cancer, and he's 42 years old, and she got up for the offering and said, I don't think I would be able to be standing through this cancer journey had I not began the faith of giving $1 more than than is required. And obviously we know that Jordy's with Jesus, and he passed away, and Stephanie is still standing, and her kids are standing because the money, it grew into faith. Because you see the Lord providing everything for you when you truly begin to trust Him with your money.
It really is.
Right?
Yep.
When you're talking about the Old Testament and the Proverbs about, well, let's save money, right?
Yeah.
I always hear this voice in my head, when I'm like, oh, I'd like to be generous, or I'm not completely convinced that I'm supposed to be. It almost feels like the right thing to do, the responsible thing to do is to say, well, I'm going to not be that fool, right? Well, if I give this money to you, then Vicky's gonna have to take care of me, and I don't have to do that to her, and we get this this confusion, and I don't know, like I know a lot of people that struggle with that, like generous or practical.
Yep.
Where's that balance at?
See, I think for me, the Holy Spirit, if I could teach anybody anything, it would be, if you think that you should give $10 to someone, well, that's the Holy Spirit, because we're not just wired that way.
Yeah.
If a thought comes across your windshield that, oh, I should really call and donate some money or do something, do it. Because that's how you start hearing the Holy Spirit, and that's how you start actually getting traction on faith and money. Because you see, when you start doing what you just said, you start rationalizing. Yeah. You're done. You're gonna talk yourself out of it. And I don't want to say that I'm 100% with this either. But I have seen so many times where I've heard that, and knowing that kind of my thoughts are kind of evil.
Yeah.
I don't want to give my money away. I don't want to be generous. So now I've kind of trained myself, because if I didn't do it, and then in hindsight I heard, well, so-and-so did it for them, or something happened, and you were like, well, that was supposed to be me.
Yeah.
I was robbed of a blessing. So I would just encourage everyone listening, if you think you should be generous to someone, just go ahead out on that plank and just do it.
Yeah.
And don't second guess it, because your thoughts are usually not in generosity and giving away your money. So that probably, I'm going to venture a guess, is going to be the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
A real practical, tangible way of just starting out on this journey.
That's helpful. I know that happened to me a couple weeks ago. My friend Johnny, he was on the podcast a long time ago, back in our old format, and he had a birthday, and him and I ride mountain bikes all the time. And he wanted this thing for his mountain bike, this automatic seat post that I've got on mine, and he just didn't want to get it for himself because it was a little bit of an expensive part. And I felt the Lord say, well, why don't you, like, how hard would it be to just coordinate some of his friends and you guys could go in on it together? But it was pretty close to the day that we needed to go to his birthday party. I wanted to give him something there. And so I started rationalizing it away, you know, like, well, I'm going to have to order it right now. And there's no guarantee that everybody else wants to go in on this with me.
I might have to pay for the whole thing.
You know, this might be a $200 bike part.
Yeah.
$200 birthday present for a friend.
And I really only want to pay $20.
Exactly. And I started thinking that way. And I asked my wife, like, what should I do? And she's like, that wasn't you just thinking of it. Just do it.
Just do it.
And what's the worst case scenario? You buy your friend, your friend that you go mountain biking with, he's going to want to go mountain biking with you more if he has this
win-win.
Thing on his bike. And it was kind of funny because we gave him the picture because it didn't come in the mail on time. And all these other people that had pitched in on it, they don't mountain bike. They're like, yay, we're so excited. You're going to have to explain to us what this thing does,
what we
right?
spend $20
It's an adjustable seat post that goes up and down automatically. So
that's awesome. Right?
Yeah. So I think people think that you just give on Sunday morning and you give your prescribed amount and that's the end. But I really believe that you walk through life every day being generous. You're generous with your compliments. You're generous with your forgiveness. You're generous with your judgments, and your just general lifestyle, your time, your energy, and your money.
What are you laughing about?
So
Vicky?
I think that
you're not being very generous right now.
I think that's what's really clear is the abundance of the Lord. But one of the ideas that people tend to adopt and make it hard for them to give is that they believe that the time is their time. That's right. Energy is their energy. The life is their life, you know, and the money that's in their pocket is their money. It's mine. I earned, you know, I deserve. And the truth is that you guys,
I don't even know what we're laughing about.
We're kind of giggling. I think because you said generous.
I thought he was going to introduce. I didn't know who was going to talk.
Sorry, we're laughing. Sometimes we cut up here. Go ahead, honey. It was really good.
This is the uncommon truth. We're all sorts of uncut here today. I was following what you were saying.
Yeah, me too. It was really good.
I just Vicky started laughing, then I started laughing.
I think we're exhausted.
We're not being very generous to you.
In lifestyle, I think generosity is in so many different ways, you know.
Right.
I think that, you know, loving to give, loving to cook for people, loving to make people comfortable, loving to make things for people. Like, I love to create a place for people who claim that no one's ever been fair to them. I love to create a place where they can find fairness in life, where they can find a chance. 100 people will come to you and say, nobody ever gave them a chance. You give those 100 people a chance, I'm telling you, 40 of them take it and 60 of them don't.
Yeah.
And it feels like you've just been robbed.
That's
I mean,
right.
like you feel so disappointed, like you did something wrong. And the truth is, though, you gave 40 people the ability to choose right, and you gave 100 people the chance they said they've never had.
That's right.
And sometimes out of those 100, a few come back for a second chance. And then they'll come back for a third chance. But each time some make it, and you just continue to give, not for the fruit of saying, look how many I've helped.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, in my growing up as a Christian, I've heard all these missionary stories. And it's funny about the islands in the Pacific. How many missionaries ended up going to these islands in the Pacific and these tropical places that even if far away, way even further away, Indonesia and stuff. And
Tahiti.
And they spent their whole life in Indonesia, or they spent their whole life in Fiji or something, and they never saw a convert.
Yeah.
And then on as they were dying, their death, the one guy that stayed with them and worked with them, he was so touched and moved by their death and so overwhelmed by the Spirit that he led the whole nation to the Lord.
Wow.
And your first thought is he never got to see his fruit. He never got to see the outcome of his life. Well, of course he did. It's eternal. We are eternal beings.
So good.
And so if it's one day or it's when he was with the president with the Lord, he got to see it. Mm-hmm. And he got to know one way, either in the future or now, he got to know that his life saved this whole island or allowed this whole island to come to the Lord. And we are so into instant gratification that we will only give if we can see an immediate return.
Yeah.
Sometimes the generosity to a drunk on the corner who ends up using it for wrong purposes, he gets up and testifies, and you hear to it all the time, how many people were generous to him. And that generosity had an effect on his life. And sometimes we're so into the literal outcome of our immediate giving of our time.
Really
He
good.
wasted my time. Hey, don't come here and waste my time. Who are you to say it's wasted? It's an investment.
Wow.
And a lot of investments take a while to return. They really do.
Yeah.
It takes a while. You be patient with investments, and usually you have a return, right? So an investment in kindness, an investment in giving, an investment in money, an investment in time, it's all the same thing. It's gonna come back to you. After many days, it will return to you. The Bible promises this. You cast your bread on the water. After many days, it will return. It's about investment. And it's not, I don't live by that. I'm not giving for the return. I'm giving for their return, the return to be them.
Yeah.
For their testimony that their life is the best it's ever been because my life was given for them. And I think that's what Jesus wants of all of us. I don't even think it's an option for Christians. I think it's just a missing teaching in the Christian
Agreed.
church
That's
that
good.
you must be giving.
You must be
Because freely it has been given to you, freely give, is the instructions of the Lord. That's what he's telling his followers. This has been given to you freely. I'm providing for you. Now you go provide for others so that they might find my provision for them as well. And I think that's really a missing component in the lifestyle of generosity.
That's good.
What do I have to give today is a totally and entirely wrong question. What do I get to give today? That is the true Christian outlook on everything in season and out of season. Whether I have money or don't have money, whether I have a lot to share or not, whether I got to take my last piece of bread and tear it down the middle and give half away, I'm still expected to live this generosity, knowing that the Lord gave me this piece of bread. Can't he give me another piece of bread if I share this one?
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope that
it's
down the
the
road.
life. I think it's the lifestyle is a gateway to everything. The lifestyle of generosity, of giving your money away. It's not your money. That's the truth. It's not your money. The 10% is not God's, and the 90% is yours. No, it's all His money. And I think oftentimes the ownership that we take is just wrong. I know that if I have a lot of money in my account and I watch Steve spending it, or me spending, or it dwindling, something happens to me. I mean, it's like I feel more secure because there's the X amount of zeros on the bottom line. But the truth is, I think it does damage because I feel like I'm more stable. But the truth is, I love living on faith. We've lived on faith for a long time now, since the crash, and to be able to know that your Father in heaven is going to prepare is amazing. Where your money is, that's where your heart is. I think that really going before the Lord and saying, Lord, do I think that this is my money? And I struggle with that all the time. I mean, it's not like I don't think Steve and I would say, wow, we've arrived, because we haven't. Every time there's a little road bump, we have to go through it again a bit, and do the right thing, make a choice. And generosity and money is a lifestyle that we need to live, and it causes all these things to be added to you: generosity, kindness, goodness, hospitality. But I think really the bottom line is your money.
Yeah.
For us Americans especially, it's money, it's control. I think I'm just going to say it, I think there's been a destroying of our children because we as parents think that they need to go to university where they're indoctrinated with antichrist teachings, because we're worried about them. You hear them
Making money,
making money and prepare, and what's it called, providing for themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's the wrong question. That's the wrong. statement.
Purpose.
You're worried that they need to provide for themselves. Well, no, honestly, Jesus needs to provide for them. And teaching them a lifestyle of giving their life away and giving their money away, I think is 1,000,000% better than send them to some university who in this country now, you could see the perverseness of what's gone on for 4 generations and the brainwashing of our children and the brainwashing of antichrist theology. And so I think way better would be Jesus provides for you. Let's see what he's going to do. Let's not just believe because little Johnny's 2 years old. Sorry, I'm picking on Johnny today. Little Johnny's 2 years old. We need to save for his education.
Yeah.
Well, that you're just becoming the Lord of that situation.
Yeah, I think I've said this before. There's a family of young adults that worked every summer at camp, and they were like the 3 most talented and dedicated. Like, you don't often get the most talented and most dedicated in the same people, right? And they're all from the same family. And by the 3rd summer, they came back to summer camp for the whole summer, all 3 of them. And I just asked, like, why do you guys do this? Like, you don't really get paid anything. You have to work way longer hours. And you probably could get a lot more recognition somewhere else than working in the middle of nowhere at a summer camp. And they're like, yeah, well, this is where the Lord told us to be. And so he hasn't told us to go anywhere else yet.
So cool.
And so I had to ask their parents, like, how did you raise these kids? Because they're my 3 most important leaders. And usually I have to retrain each one of these. And for the past 3 years, they've been coming back. And they said, you know what, we just lived it out in front of them. Right? Sometimes we'd go someplace and they'd all have to share a bedroom because the Lord called us to this place. And they still had their old little Mazda car that was 20 years old. Wow. And it was dad's, and then it was oldest son and middle son, and then youngest daughter, right?
You just
so
live
it
in
in
front of them.
You just
and
live it out.
That was great because that was when I had my first child. And so that played a big role actually in us coming here.
Yep.
The Naylor family in Lillooet, BC,
Naylors.
Canada.
Yeah, I hope you're listening.
And so that was a big thing.
Guys.
And what it taught me was actually money's not something that I kind of have to hold on to myself, or it's not even something that I should feel bad about. It kind of taught me that money and where we're at is actually a resource that I can actually use to build the kingdom. And I can actually strategically think about how can I be generous with money instead of like, oh, well, wait for it to come and then we'll see what happens.
That's right. Steve has a story about, and I think we're getting up to the clock, but there's a young man who had an invention, right? And he wanted to, and you asked him, why do you want to, go ahead.
Yeah, he wanted to patent something, and I said, well, I have questioned him, and he wants to make millions and millions and millions, and this thing's just guaranteed to make millions. And he shared it with me. I told him he can't share with me. I said non-disclosure agreement, and I said I have friends that make patents. So I called a friend. So you willing to sit with this guy? And so he came over and signed a non-disclosure and protected against telling him the secret. Well, it literally was a secret that already was out. So it was already invented. Yeah, it really didn't have any value, and it was a good thought. He'd never heard of it, so it was unique to him.
Yeah.
So he just was shocked to see someone else already had it out there on the market. But when asking him, why do you want to make millions? Is that going to be good for you? He said, because I want to do really good things in the kingdom. I want to build the kingdom with it. I said, so you want to make millions to give millions away? He goes, yeah, absolutely. I said, so right now you don't make millions, you make $10. I mean, so are you right now meeting the $10 need that you encounter, to help people do their ministry? There's a lot of $10 needs out there in people trying to do the ministry. There's a lot of $100 needs. Are you meeting those right now at personal sacrifice to you? He said, no, not really. Things are kind of tight. And I told him, if you're not meeting the $10 need when you have $10, when you're broke and you have small numbers and you don't meet the needs around you of those small numbers, you're never going to meet the needs of millions when you have millions.
So good.
Because
true.
Millions is the most intoxicating thing that you've ever known. It is more intoxicating and controlling of your brain than any other subject on earth. Nothing controls your mind like big numbers of money in your possession. You're never going to be able to give it away because you wouldn't give when you had little. Mm-hmm. You're never going to give when you have lots. And I'm not sure you should be praying for this lots. And then the guy came over and showed us that it was already done. We looked it up on the internet and found it in several places. And so I turned to him and said, you'd think of this as a bummer, like this huge defeat. But I think it's God is saving you because money is going to destroy you.
Not ready.
More than any other subject on earth. And that's just, I think that's what the point Vicky's making is nobody's going to give unless they start practicing with the small amounts and grow. Yeah. You grow to the bigger challenges, Mm-hmm. And so.
That's good. It really is. Jesus says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get to heaven. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's there for a reason. And having lots of money is very intoxicating. And if you don't start at the $10, it's really difficult to get to the $1 million giveaway.
Yeah.
And you guys are folks that have had
$10.
Yeah, right. You've had those.
We've had both.
We've had both of those times, right? Where you wouldn't be able to do some of the things you do now. Give what you
correct
unless you had done it before, right?
Correct. We pretty much have walked through some of the some exercises in faith and money, and hopefully we'll continue to grow in our faith and get generosity, mm-hmm. and that if there's a need and that it's brought to us that we can help provide for it, right?
Well, I appreciate that, guys. That's really helpful. Like I said, we like to talk about things that are uncommon, right. that you don't really hear anywhere else. That's what we want to be about.
That's right.
And even though the topic of money is something that is all over the place, your approach to it and dealing with it is really uncommon, not just in the world, but I think it is in Christianity too. And it's helped me live a little bit more free, a little bit closer to Jesus, because I don't have this weight of, well, what am I going to do?
Worrying about your future.
Right? I've had the experience of having a car provided for me on a weekend, on a Sunday afternoon.
Pretty cool.
And the week before my daughter was born, and I literally couldn't fit all the children that right. I have now into my old car, and
Amazing.
Then I got a new one. And,
that's right.
And what did we say when that eventual thing was coming up?
It was.
What advice did I give you?
I think you said, why don't we just
trust
see
Jesus?
What Jesus does?
Why don't we just trust Jesus for now?
Right?
Yeah.
And now we've got the van. Yep. It's called Elliot. It's called Elliot the girl. It's a girl Elliot because my daughter said one day, my oldest, when we were driving, I think her name is Elliot. And we look at her in the rearview mirror. Why is it Elliot and why is she Elliot? And she just sort of, as a 3-year-old at the time, she goes, that's what Jesus said.
Oh, that's
I was like,
awesome.
Oh, okay. And so now it's Elliot.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right? Elliot, the girl minivan.
How cool is that?
So,
yeah,
and it's great
Elliot.
because I never get to drive it anymore. But all the people that hang out with the kids in the neighborhood, like all the other,
they drive it. It's used for the ministry.
They're going to the pumpkin patch. Yep. They're going,
generosity.
And it's pretty cool. And at the beginning, I was like, I don't want my nice new van to be used by.
Right.
Oh wait. It's not my nice
new
van. This is Elliot, the girl minivan.
We trusted Jesus, and she belongs to the Lord.
I'm struggling with that right now because I just got a new car, and I got my son and his 2 daughters and wife coming from Hawaii in a few weeks, and it's like, my brand new car. No, it's not mine. Precious.
Right?
What? And I would love them to drive it. What?
We are looking so forward to that.
Absolutely.
We can't wait till they're in your new car.
I know. I just said struggle of new cars, right?
Yeah. We just
you don't want anybody to use your new car.
You are
I'm
wanted
so
and
excited.
welcome.
Yes.
We can't wait. Good thing he doesn't listen all the way to the end.
Yeah, his wife does, though.
Yep.
Jen does. Hi, Jen.
Yeah, we're glad to have you guys out in Hawaii. And that's really all across the world, all across the nation that we're reaching. So thank you guys so much for sticking with us. I hope you guys have a great week, and we will be with you next week here on The Uncommon Truth. Thanks for listening.
Amen.
Bye, guys.